I honestly think society trains us to believe that failure is bad.
Way more shit that you thought you were going to have to go through, you end up having to go through.
We're rolling.
Cool. Awesome, man.
Martin Cal, let's have a conversation, man.
Roy Clancy, let's do it. Appreciate you having me.
Yes, sir. We're in the new conference room, just moved in.
It's nice, man. It's a good setup.
What do you say to people when somebody asks you, Martin, what do you do?
So I would say that I help people achieve their goals in life, specifically young people in college, 18 to 25, but everybody.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say you're like, do you think you resonate more with like being a sales manager or a life coach? Like when you're thinking of your job, do you think of yourself more as like, I guess more of a sales manager or?
That's a really good question.
For kids.
I definitely would say more like a coach, more like a mentor. And then of course, like we all screw up sometimes, and sometimes I try to manage people a little bit too much, and and so I think it's like a fine balance, but of course I'm still trying to learn and grow in that aspect. So I try to be as much of a coach as possible, but sometimes I will fall into manager tendencies. But
what does that look like manager tendencies?
Yeah. I mean, it's just probably, I would say, like probably some of, as we both know, like some of like
telling people what to do versus like selling them
for sure,
why to do it.
For sure. Yeah, because as we both kind of know, like you manage like systems, you manage things, but it's a little bit harder to like manage people. And I think like through my years, just in sales management, I've just kind of learned that, I have a lot more manager tendencies, and I think we kind of all do.
Yeah.
Not everyone's like, Jake Chesney, where he's just like a natural baseball coach for everyone,
Yeah.
So I think I kind of lean more towards manager tendencies initially, but over the years, like Southwestern, in the company that, like we work with, like it's just, building those principles to learn how to lead people and manage the systems. So
that's a good point. Lead people and manage the systems.
For sure.
That's cool. It's a lot harder to do than it sounds, though.
Yeah, so much harder. But I freaking love systems, though. Like systems, like they get me off, bro.
So like we all got our start. Well, everybody that's been on the podcast so far, except for Jackson, and we've had 3 podcasts that went through, and we had 3 that the audio didn't work on. So we're still. Finally, I'm like, I think this one's gonna work. So hopefully we don't have to bring you back in.
And we got the backup audio on mine, so I think we'll be good.
I think it will be good.
Yeah.
But we all got our start selling books.
Yep, we did.
Jackson, he sold solar, and tell the audience a little bit about selling. But most of the audience is book people,
right?
And most of them already know about it. But what's your story? Like, how did you get into? I know a lot about it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't. I don't think, anybody outside of Utah or Minnesota or Colorado probably does it. So what's your story,
Yeah. Yeah, man.
We have one big thing in common.
Yeah. Big families.
Big families.
Youngest of 8 siblings?
Youngest of 11.
Holy shit.
And you're youngest of 9, right?
Yeah. Or 9 in total. I'm the 9th.
You're the 9th.
Yep.
Yep.
Youngest of 9th. I was born here in the U.S. Everybody else was born in Vietnam. They all immigrated. And they landed their way in Salt Lake City, Utah.
That's crazy.
Yep. So we got to Salt Lake, and that's where I grew up, born and raised. Just crazy like family situation. Like it's funny because there's actually like a legal loophole where my family was able to come to the U.S. Because Vietnam War, there's a lot of like babies just had during the Vietnam War, like
from American
soldiers. They just of course, find a beautiful Vietnamese woman and have a baby with her, and then, go back to America. And there's actually a loophole where if you actually adopted a half American baby, then you could actually go to the U.S. And that was
way.
Yeah. So that was actually, it's not a thing anymore, but that was actually how my family got over to the United States.
Who was the half adopted American?
So it was my oldest brother, and he was actually the one that I actually saw get shot in the face when I was 5 years old.
Good God.
Yeah. And I actually got shot in the shoulder that same night.
What the hell happened? Are you gonna get to that?
Yeah. So basically, it was kind of like a gang initiation in a sense. Like, I mean, naturally, with like all my siblings and my family, like it was just there was nobody to watch me. So I would like basically the only person that wasn't working or in school was him, and he'd like take me around and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it was just a crazy situation. Of course, definitely a lot of trauma that I needed to work through because of that.
Wait, how old were you when that happened?
I was 5.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Wait, did he die?
Yeah, like he's dead. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So
Dude, I don't even think I knew that. That's crazy.
Yeah. So basically,
what the hell happened? So right when you guys came to the States, you were born?
He basically was like, because he knew he was the reason why our family was in the U.S. So he would pull that card a lot, and my parents like would kind of enable it and give him like money for just dumb things, and he would end up using it on like God knows what, and he got involved in drugs and gangs and all that kind of stuff. And so long story short, that's ended up being what happened. And and so I mean it was just crazy stuff on crazy stuff. Like things were just really crazy in my household all the way up until I probably turned about 12 or 13, and that's when things got a little bit more chill. Like my mom started working like full time doing nails, and my dad, he ended up, getting a job at a gas station. It's called Maverick.
I love Maverick.
Yeah, Mavericks are awesome.
Yeah, that's only out in the mountain time.
Yep.
Mountainside time.
Yep. Out in Utah, out in Colorado, they got in Nevada and all that stuff. But it was actually lit because we were used to getting like stuff from like the food bank and eating food from the food bank every night. But it was cool because sometimes my dad would pull up with just like this big trash bag of just leftover Maverick food. So like growing up, like
so you guys definitely didn't grow up well off. It doesn't sound like.
For sure. Yeah. I wouldn't say.
Did you say you guys were broke?
I would say so. Yeah. Like when I was really young, all the way up until about 12 or so. And then when my mom started working full time doing nails, that's when like things got a lot better. So things got a lot better. A lot of my siblings, started their own families, and I was the only one in the house when I was 12, because like everybody was like significantly older than me. My second oldest sister is like 6 years older, so she was out of the house when I was in 6th grade, and I feel as though I kind of more grew up as like an only child than anything.
That's crazy when you come from a big ass family to say that.
For sure, yeah. So yeah, it was a crazy upbringing, but things definitely got a lot better, in middle school and high school. And then my dad actually ended up getting cancer, and he ended up passing away when I was 17. And so I ended up, getting like a full ride scholarship, like literally like got the full ride scholarship. My dad was in hospice. He was the first person I told, and he passed away like the very next day. So at least I knew that he passed away, like happy and proud of me and all that stuff. Hopefully, I don't know. But but yes, I ended up going to college in Boulder. I went to CU. And that was actually, me and Jacob actually lived in the same dorm together.
So you guys would see each other?
We would see each other, but we never like really hung out or like interacted a ton.
Well, because that's like gangs, the Asians and the Mexicans.
yeah, exactly.
They got the Harrian.
Yeah, so Darley North. That's where I lived up
Darley North. Did you go
12th
to
floor.
Leeds School of Business?
Yeah, so I actually ended
That's
up.
Leeds, right?
I was pre-med actually my first 2 years. So when I was at CU, I was pre-med. And I was like, I worked as I was a certified advanced medical assistant. I'd like wear scrubs. I'd like,
you legit thought did you watch Grey's Anatomy? Like,
oh, bro, like I was going to be like the doctor. Like,
the doctor.
Like that was.
I don't think I can say that though.
It's
I
okay.
might get canceled after this.
Yeah,
podcast.
it's all good. It's all good. Don't we could cut it out, but I'd prefer not to. Maybe we do like a zoom in on that part. Case.
And that'll be like the highlighted clip that we'll pin at the top of the page.
Life Pros last episode. But yeah, so
you were gonna be a doctor. What changed your mind?
I think it was organic chemistry.
Yeah. I saw one of my brothers is a doctor, and I saw him doing homework for organic chemistry one time, and and not that I was even gonna think about going into the medical field, but
for sure
it did not look like fun.
Yeah, man, it was a kick in the ass, and I totally failed it. And I was like, you know what, maybe I'll do something else, and switched to business my junior year. So big changes. So I moved back to Utah. and switched to business. And I moved in with all of my friends from high school. Bad decision. So my friends from high school they're
usually that's not a step back up.
for sure. Yeah,
Not to say, I mean, sometimes it could be, I guess. But
for sure. But we'll kind of put it that way.
Yeah.
God bless them. I'm sure I'm hoping they're doing good now. But, of course, we all were just young and stupid and, doing drugs and partying way too much. And it was actually a huge turning point for me because it was like on Halloween night. It was like a Tuesday night. And me and my buddies, I get home from class and I'm trying to finish my homework as quick as possible because there's a party we're going to go to. And we end up leaving for this party and we just got hammered before. We pre-gamed and got really hammered and I took some drugs and that was the last thing I remembered. And then I ended up getting arrested and I woke up in the drunk tank and I was too ashamed to tell my mom. So I actually had my buddy pick me up and I remember the moment he picked me up, I thought, for some reason, part of me thought that I would be getting empathy and sympathy, but as soon as he picked me up, he just started laughing in my face. And I was just that was the moment I was I think I need new friends.
Yeah.
So I believe it was an act of God, when I heard about Southwestern. It was a career fair and I had this program that I was actually applying to live in Costa Rica. I thought I was going to go into nonprofits and all that stuff, which is pretty funny because it's quite the opposite of what we do now. But
yeah,
because we definitely, make some
we're
profit.
Definitely for profit.
Yeah, we're for profit for sure.
There's a little sizzler escapade every year, but other than that.
Exactly. Yeah. So. But yeah, so I ended up going to this career fair and I just got declined from this Costa Rica thing.
Dang, not for profit.
Literally that day, I got declined.
What was your
from
reason?
It. The reason was because I didn't have good enough Spanish.
Oh, because you're in Costa Rica.
Yeah. I went to the interview and
90% of the people in Costa Rica probably speak a little bit of English.
For sure.
Touristy.
Yeah. So my Spanish wasn't good enough apparently. So I got declined that day. And then I was oh, there's a career fair going on. So I walked over to the auditorium and I walked up to two really sharp dressed men and I just asked them what it was about. They told me and the rest was history. I went to an info session. As soon as they said competitive, hard to get into, I'm just extremely competitive, played sports my whole life. So it just sounded like a new sport to me. I was just hooked the moment that they mentioned it. And I knew that I was going to do it.
You have any doubt? It's,
I never had any doubt. So I think that's kind of what, was hard for me when I started recruiting was that, I just thought everybody would be like me. And I was yeah, bringing 20 people is going to be no big deal.
Easy, man. Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Yeah, we always think during recruiting that everybody's going to be like you.
For sure.
Like you.
And then they're not.
And you're what the hell? It's so stupid.
But I think that's the beautiful thing about it too.
Yeah.
Is that, it's just doing something like this teaches you that not everybody is like you.
Right.
And working with people and
even if it's
people.
The same type of program, you're you like challenges, you like hardworking things.
For sure.
Everybody's so different.
Everybody's so different. And I believe that's just something that the career of sales and career of entrepreneurship and just working with people teaches you that just nothing else does.
So what do you think, in your 9 years of sales, and recruiting, what are the biggest realizations you've had about sales or about recruiting or about yourself?
For sure.
Or people,
Number one is that sales is not convincing. Everybody, or at least not, I don't know, I can't speak for everybody, but I know for sure, for me, I associated the word sales with convince, manipulate, get them to get something that they don't actually need and use fancy words. Yeah, exactly. Right. And that was probably one of the biggest things I learned was just that sales is service and sales is not just selling a product, but it's selling an idea. It's selling, selling it's in everything that we do in life, whether it's, meeting our future spouse, whether it's you know, when we have kids one day, it's like selling them on the idea of getting to bed on time or whatever it might be. You know, every single thing is communication. Every single thing is sales. And when like you find like the highest level of sales, like people like you, Roy, you know, is when you actually come from a place of service and like, how can I serve this person? What is their need? Like, how can I help this person?
Yeah.
And that's when like you sit in on sales calls. And, you know, I remember when I followed you, like my 5th summer, and I was like, wow, like this guy.
That's on Maryland, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, this guy, it feels like how he's talking to these families, like they're happy that he's there and he's like a trusted consultant.
Thanks, dude.
And that's like,
I appreciate it.
that's like the highest form of sales. And so that was, you know, a really big clicking point for me, was just understanding that like in sales, like
Allegheny County, Maryland.
Yep, Allegheny County, the highest level of it is serving.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's hard to for a lot of people, and ourselves included, you know, sometimes you're on fire and you're just like in the zone.
For sure.
And that's like, it's kind of a little bit how I felt today and yesterday and the day before.
Yes.
But dude, that sometimes there's a week where you feel like, man, like something's just off. Like, what is it? Is this the people? Is it me? Do I need to change and twist around my sales talk?
Yep.
Like, dude, I'm saying the same thing and it's just not working. And then you start trying to change everything, you know, and then you start putting pressure on yourself to do better. Like, why am I not doing as well as I was last week? Or,
For sure.
you know, my potential is this, or like my goals are so much higher, but I'm starting off so poorly. So how do you keep a service mindset when you're also putting pressure on results?
Man, I think that's like,
you know what I mean?
question of the century.
Yeah. Well, how do you do it?
Yeah,
What's your, I don't know, tricks?
for sure.
Not tricks, or, you know, your habits that you put.
Absolutely. And it's funny for everybody like watching this episode, like if there's anyone to ask this question, it's this guy right here. So, you know, Roy knows the answer to this question for sure. But yeah, just in how I take the pressure off is just realizing like where I'm at my best and who I am at my best. And it's a concept that one of our mentors, Dave Brown, introduced to me, the concept of IDP, like identify who you are at your best, duplicate it until you perfect it. I didn't fully understand it at first until you don't really learn who you are at your best until you perform at a level that requires you to be at your best.
And what was that for you? What was that?
For a lot of, you know, for me, it was like, you know, moments when, you know, running, you know, when I ran my first half marathon, or moments in sports, and then of course moments in sales on the field. So I realized that the thing for me is I'm at my best at sales when I'm having fun, I'm treating people well, and I'm making people laugh. Like I'm just being myself, I'm being authentic, I'm having fun, treating them well, and I'm making them laugh. And so that's just my self-talk is, hey, like all you got to do, Martine, is just have fun, make people laugh, have fun, make people laugh, and just like hammer that in. And like whatever the result today, whether I have 10 customers, whether I have 20, whether I have just one, or maybe I don't sell anything, but I know that my success is anchored in treating people well and having fun. If I know that I do that, it's a successful day.
Right.
And it's just training my brain to really believe that. And there's days where you don't. You know, there's days where you definitely are like, you know, you haven't sold anything in 2 days and you're just like,
Yeah, hard to have a heart of service when that bank account's in the negative. You know what I mean?
For sure. But I also think that's when you perform, is when your back's to a corner. That's one of the scariest people in the world, is someone who's like a man whose back is in the corner.
Yeah. Yeah, no savings.
Yep.
Credit cards piling up.
Yep.
And
it's like,
we've all had moments like that, you know?
we have, yeah.
Everybody's had moments like that. Well, maybe not everybody, but I know we have, just through being friends for the past, you know, few years. Everybody's got a story like that, you know?
I believe
It's
if
true.
you're on your way to a worthy cause, you have to.
Do you
It's
feel like
just a
that's the barrier
requirement.
of entry? Like the barrier of entry, God's looking down from heaven, or whatever, was just painting a picture.
Yeah.
Here. And it's like he sees, you know, you see us as like these two little characters on our way to achieve success.
Yeah.
You know, and he puts at different parts, you know, it's like have this realization like, you know, I want to learn how to sell. you know, and then you say, and then he puts this in your path. You know, for me, that was kind of how it felt.
Yeah,
Like I always felt like everything I prayed for has come true.
for sure.
It doesn't mean it's always easy, obviously, but like, you know, when I was in high school, you know, always thinking about, well, I want to be successful. I want to be rich. And so, like, how do people get successful? Everything said, learn how to sell.
Yeah.
Everything, you know?
Yep.
And today it's even more saturated than 2017, 2016, obviously.
For sure.
Like gurus are everywhere. But
Yep.
it's always consistent, learn how to sell. And then I found, I started detailing cars for this guy, Tom Plumley, Plum Auto. And
Shout out Plum Auto.
Shout out Plum Auto, Tom Plumley.
Let's get a sponsorship.
But I came back from, yeah, but I came back from Minnesota and I was selected to sell books. And then I was like, oh, like what's going to give me, okay, I can either work at the factory that everybody works at while I go to community college and train to sell books, or I can call some used auto places and see if I can detail cars for commission so I can pick my hours, you know, while I'm training and stuff.
Yep. That was your tasseling corn story.
Exactly, yeah. So I'd like be in the car with all the freaking juice and all the, you know, whatever, the fumes and everything. And he paid pretty good, like $150 a car. And I have never gotten paid an hourly wage after that.
Yep.
And I think, and that wasn't hard. Like that was actually a shoe-in because he was my brother's old football coach and family friend kind of, you know, so we had a connection there. But my first week selling books, my debit card ran out, you know, and you know, when you're compiling expenses at sales school and you're going through your inventory basically, and your sales manager's like, so how much do you have left over and blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Like I didn't have a credit card, you know,
For sure.
and I just had the money I saved up from detailing cars, and I put my card in the gas tank and it's $6 or whatever. And I told this one on the last or 2 podcasts ago, but like that moment, if Shane wouldn't have been such a good sales manager and been like, dude, you're not like, so you committed for the rest of the summer, no matter what, come hell or high water, like every meeting to the point where I'm like, dude, I'm in, like, duh.
Yeah.
I've said it 1,000,000 times. I probably maybe would have quit. Or like if my brother wasn't out there, or my friend Tim and all these variables.
Yeah.
But I think God does that. He puts these obstacles in the way of where you're going to go.
And he's like, what are you going to do?
Exactly. You know? And the funny thing is it's always worked out. Like I feel like everything I've ever prayed for, ultimately, and some of them haven't come true yet, but ultimately they always work out. They're just way more shit that you thought you were going to have to go through.
Yeah.
You end up having to go through. Like that's the catch. It's like if there's a catch, it's like you're going to, and it's so cliche. And like people have heard this 1,000,000 times and so have we, but it's going to cost twice as much, take twice as long. You know, it's not going to be as exciting.
Yeah.
And
The moment when you're about to succeed, right before is when you feel like everything's falling apart.
that's a good one. Where'd you get that from?
I think I saw it on like an Alex Hermosi post.
A big old gorilla.
Yeah, that dude does some crazy
Dude,
stuff.
he's a G.
Yeah,
love
he's a
that dude.
freaking G. Like it's
You know, he's coming on the
crazy.
podcast tonight.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Right after me?
Yeah, right now.
Damn. That's quite
It's gonna be
quite
hard
the follow
It's
up.
gonna be hard to follow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, dude.
And
I
it's
love that
totally
stuff,
true.
though.
It's totally true. I honestly think society trains us to just like believe that failure is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like we go to school from kindergarten until, you know, we're 22 years old. And if you get an F, bad. And it's just like conditioning that like failing is bad. And it just like makes us think that like, it just makes us non-entrepreneurial. It like trains us to become cogs in the system. You know, I hate sounding like one of those old guys on the book field, you know, but it's true. You know, it's like, it makes people think that like, oh man, I can't ever do sales, or I can't ever be an entrepreneur. I can't ever make a name for myself because what if I fail?
Then like the saddest thing I feel like you find out there, like for me, the thing that pissed me off the most about sometimes talking to college students. I mean, it's amazing working with college students because they're malleable and like,
Right.
yeah, man, you can really like what you're doing right now in recruiting for the program for Southwestern, taking kids out over the summer, showing them what hard work looks like, you know, dedication, what commitment looks like. And people are going to, and have like look back and be like, that was my sales manager, Martin Cow, you know, and they'll look back on it for years and years. And it's just so sad when you see, and you talk to a kid that thinks like and we all kind of do this a little bit, but it's like they have their entire life already planned out ahead of them.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, that's boring as hell. Like, well, no, I can't do that because I've got to take these 3 classes because I want to start my career at 21 and I want to get this internship with this blah, 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 and just all this horseshit. It's like to get into a career that ultimately, statistically, that's probably going to change, or they're not even going to go into that career. And everybody's just convinced that that's what's going to happen until graduation hits, it seems like, you know?
For sure.
And it's like watching this, and sometimes when you talk to some people, it's almost like watching like a brainwashed, what's one of those crazy Wild Wild Country? You ever seen that?
I haven't.
His name's Rajneesh Bhagwan, and he's like the Shane Blick. Of
the show.
No, but he's like the mentor or the yogi.
Yep.
Not the Shane Blick. I love Shane, but he's this guy who basically brainwashed all these people. Whoever, I don't really have an opinion on it, but when the people are talking about it, they're like, it's all like they all sound the same when they're talking about it.
Yep.
And that's kind of what it seems like, you know.
For sure.
Is, you know, well, I got to do this, and it's always the same objections. My parents, you know, well, I don't know, I don't want to offend my parents. And it's because their parents are paying for their stuff, and ultimately that's going to lead them to resent their parents.
Yep.
You know, it's like you watch the same movie with all these people, and it's like you can only do your best to try to talk them out of it, or have the balls to try to maybe offer a different opinion, you know?
For sure.
But why do you think you didn't think like that?
Yeah.
You know?
It's funny, like it just like to continue off of what you just said, it's like helping someone like that is literally like breaking someone out of the matrix. Like you literally feel like, you know, Morpheus offering them the blue pill or the red pill, you know,
like pulling them out of this freaking,
and it's like, do you want to keep living and thinking the way you've always thought, and like knowing that like every decision is just made for you, or do you want to
do something?
Do you want to create your own destiny?
Yeah.
And obviously when people watch that movie, people are like, oh yeah, I'd probably pick my own destiny. But like people don't realize, people just don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, man, going off of that, like I think like naturally, because like growing up, life was so crazy and I just had to like go get it myself. And, you know, I'd always like wanted nice things. Like I always wanted like, you know, the shoes that like my friends had. Like I wanted to have the clothes that they had, and you know, their parents bought them. And like, for me, I just had to find other ways to get it. Like I had to, you know, sell things. Like, you know, I had to flip clothes and flip, you know, other things that I can't name on the podcast. But, you know, I think naturally I just kind of had that spirit of like, if I want it, I gotta get it, you know? Yeah. And I think that's like and
nobody was giving you your $500 a week allowance to go.
For sure, yeah.
Get the shoes that you want and all that shit.
And it's funny because I think Jordan Peterson talks about it too. You know, how it's kind of like a paradox in a sense of like how when we grow up in like the rough situation, like I read a statistic the other day that like it was something like 70 to 80% of millionaires are self-made. Like
no money.
No, they didn't inherit money. So statistically speaking, there's a crap ton of kids that inherit millions, but like they don't keep the millions. And like statistics show that like 70 to 80% like, you know, come from the mud, and like they had to like build it themselves. And I
buy that. Yeah.
And it makes sense. You know, so I feel as though like there's just like a certain level of respect, you know, that you have for people like that, because, you know, like, you know, even if you don't know their whole story, you know, for a fact that they had to go through some stuff in order to reach the level that they reach.
Yep.
And it's just a certain level of respect you have for those people. And it's unspoken. Like you don't really need to put it out there. And you know, I used to have a really big chip on my shoulder, and I used to need to let everybody know that, you know,
I got it myself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but just the older I get, the more I realize that like people know, you know?
Yeah.
And that your actions and other people will say it for you.
Exactly, dude. And that's a tough one because you want to be the one that hears those conversations,
Right.
but you never will.
You don't.
And that's not the point either. I mean,
For sure.
I think everybody loves and it has a deep, especially I think highly motivated people have a deep-seated insecurity about recognition.
Yeah.
Needing recognition because they just want to feel accepted, loved. They want to feel like they have a place in this world.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why sometimes it's like the kryptonite too.
Yeah.
Because then you just keep more,
Right.
and it's never going to satisfy you, but it's what drives you to accomplish things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, when do you flip the switch off? Because like, I think for myself, that's one big motivator was proving, I'm the youngest, but I'm going to be, the most successful,
Yeah.
and I don't think I am the most successful yet, but I've got some time. And that's still like a motivation for me. I don't really fully comprehend why or what that even looks like or means, but it's like a weird, it's a weird thing how it can be such a huge motivator, and then at the same time it can be such a huge cross
For sure.
to bear,
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we're always incredibly highly motivated, but people that tend to achieve big things, or just like, dude, I think going out for a summer, 80 hours a week, one summer is a big thing.
For sure.
Like for most people, that's huge. You know, I hear about like Trace here went to Alaska, went fishing for a summer, and didn't get the results that they wanted to get. It's not like really up to them what the fish, if the fish are there or not.
Yeah.
Or like went up to the oil fields and stuff. Like doing that for a summer, I respect the living shit out of it, you know? And I'm like starting to feel like I'm old now by saying like, well, I respect that somebody does that, but that's awesome.
For sure.
Getting out of your comfort zone and doing that. But the, what do you think about that? What do you think about the idea that Hormozy does have he talks about that a little bit.
Yeah.
About how like when you're somebody that's really successful usually has like a gap in their soul that they're trying to fill.
Yeah.
With like a need for more. So it's kind of a catch-22.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I feel as though, the older I obviously I definitely don't have the answer to this, and I can only just speak from my experience, but I think like the older that I'm getting and the more that I'm getting in the Bible and like the more I'm getting into the Word and leaning into that, it's like I think it's I'm realizing that it's more so hard to explain, it's hard to explain, but I feel as though it's more leaning into just like what God wants and leaning more into, the things that he wants for my life and surrendering that to him. And then it's just like, he just like will always like guide us in like the right direction and always guide us in the right way, I feel as though. But yeah, no, of course, like I had like this moment like yesterday where, I was hanging out with the boys in like, in our hotel room, and we're just shooting the shit and hanging out.
Yeah.
And, I don't know how this happened, but, they just start getting mad at me. And like, I think they were joking. I think they were yanking my chain, and they're just like, just saying some crazy stuff, about me and like my character and like how like, like they're like, dude, like I answered this phone call, like while a friend was telling a story. And they're like, dude, you're such a douchebag. Like, why do you always do that? You always cut me off. And they just start digging into me. And like, not just him, but like everybody in the room. And I think they're just joking. But like, I put that moment like in my back pocket. And I'm going to freaking destroy them this summer. And like, that's like my motivation, like, and like, is like, even though they were joking and it's all love, I love them to death, like still, but it's just like,
is that what you tend to do to motivate yourself?
For sure.
You'll take that, like a frustrating moment like that.
Yep. Like if like,
just, and
if
put it in the back pocket.
If I'm on stage and you do as to just look at me weird while I'm saying something, while I'm like on stage giving a part, it's like, that's going down in my notes, and I'm gonna think about that when I'm on the field, and I'm gonna destroy you because of it, you know.
What else? What other? Tell me some more moments.
You know,
If Mrs. Jones, what if Mrs. Jones looks at you weird?
no, it's never anything like that. It's more
Like competitive with the other people,
for
like
sure,
the other salespeople.
it's more competitive with other people, and it's also just like competitive with myself and just wanting to be the best version of me. Because at the end of the day, like, whatever, like, I truly believe that, like, this pie is infinite. Like, people think that, like, there's just, like, if I'm successful,
Only me.
that means, like, oh, man, if that guy was successful, I can't.
Yeah.
He already has all the success. But, like, that's not how it works. It's, you know, there's an infinite amount of pie, and you can have it too. So just because someone else is successful doesn't mean that you can't be successful.
Exactly.
So I believe, like, when you come from a place of abundance like that, you know, it's just I want them to be successful, you know, and I want them to beat me. Like, you know, this summer I followed Lucas, and I told Lucas, like, I was like, hey man, like, I hope you beat me this summer. Like, I genuinely hope you beat me this summer, you know. And of course I ended up beating him. Well, no, I did. I actually really wanted him to beat me this summer.
Why?
Because, like, man, that would be, like, the coolest feeling to know that I led someone to beat me.
Yeah.
Like, I feel as though, like, that would be one of the coolest feelings ever. And it still is such a cool feeling what he accomplished. Obviously, like, I didn't have very much to do with it, you know, but, you know, it's just cool to see what he had accomplished. And I would have loved, like, because, you know, for me to lead someone to be able to beat me, like, I think that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
And I'd be so happy for him.
The grasshopper become the master.
For sure. But I just knew that, like, I was going to do everything in my power to win.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I would have been fine if I didn't, but, like, I was going to do everything in my power to not.
Exactly.
But also, I was unattached. I think.
You really think you're unattached? Because I always like to think that I'm unattached to goals. You know, seems like I'm more unattached when I hit them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
I've been unattached to every goal I ever hit.
It's easy to, like, be unattached when you just made, like, $2,000 that day and $3-4 grand that day.
You're like, I'm so unattached.
Super unattached. I don't got to sell anything anymore today.
And then one cancels that night. You're like, son of a. Maybe not as. Yeah, but I get what you mean about being unattached about beating someone, because sometimes it is genuine.
It's kind of like just like the whole concept of, like, white knuckling, you know, when you're driving and you're just, like, freaking pissed and you start white knuckling, or, like, it's like the concept of, like, if you're holding sand on a beach, you know, it's like if you're gripping the sand super tight, like, it's gonna fall out, but, like, if you kind of have, like, a loose grip on it, it's gonna stay in your hand. And I think I remember hearing, like, Kaya Hillis, like, talk about that, and that just really resonated with me, of, like, you know, your goals, like, you know, of course, like, you want to hit the goals, but you don't want to be, like, to the point where you're, like, destructive and, like, it's, like, toxic. You know, it's more just kind of having, like, kind of a loose grip on the goal. And, you know, I give this analogy to the kids on my team right now. I work with 5 baseball players in my sales organization, and, you know, it's like the same analogy when they're at bat. It's like if you're gripping the bat too damn tight, like, you're gonna.
Exactly.
You know, you can't, like, loosen the grip.
Even in golf, you know, they say you want to have, like, anywhere between, like, 3 points, you know, like a 4.
For sure.
A scale 1 to 10, like a 4. You know.
And I feel as though, like, there's, like, you know, because of all those different things it applies to, it's like.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole highly invested, emotionally unattached.
Yeah.
You know.
For sure.
Or 100% conviction, 0% pressure. You know, it's a lifelong thing, man.
It really is.
I was curious about what do you feel like your best day on the doors was? Your favorite day? Kind of walk through that, if you can think of it.
My favorite day, think of it, or the day where I want you to force a story. My favorite day, or the day I sold the most.
You can pick one of the two, and then
I'll tell you both.
And then your worst day.
I'll tell you both.
If you can't think of, like, your worst day, just don't even tell it though, unless you actually remember your worst day.
Yeah.
Or you can do worst day first and then best day. I don't care.
I'll tell you both. So it was actually
And again, to people that are listening, this is door to door, 80 hours a week. How many calls a day would you say you're getting in?
probably like 60,
Probably knocking on
70-ish.
80 to 100 doors
Yeah.
a day, talking to 30 people. And this is well, now it's 14 weeks.
Yeah.
But usually it was 12 weeks over the summer. Wake up at 5:59, or what is it now, 6:59, depending on who you work with. Going to bed at 11. If you're in an OL,
Yeah.
going to bed at maybe 12, hopefully.
OL is an organizational leader. Yep.
But go ahead. What is it?
I would probably say like my best / like worst day was like my second week, my third summer. No, first summer. Second week, my first summer, where it was crazy. I remember like this was post, my dad had just passed like, a couple years back before that. And I was just like not like cool with God at all. Like I just really didn't believe anymore. And it was crazy because it was just so many times people that I had met just had I had a guy like on like the first day give me like a Bible. Another guy he hand carved like crosses and he gave me a cross like a couple of days later. And another guy like pray over me. And I wasn't in the Bible Belt or anything. I was selling in Pennsylvania my first summer. So it was just unusual. Yeah. And I remember my second week I actually ran into this dad, and it was just him in the house, and there's like there's a bunch of kids' toys like outside, and I just assumed that like his wife was working, and we got to chatting, and it turns out that like his wife like left him for another guy and like ran away with this guy and the kids, and he was like super depressed because of it. But he actually ended up becoming like a pastor at like a local prison, and that like changed his life. And he just gave me kind of like I didn't fully absorb it because it just at that point I was just unsure with my relationship with God. But that conversation made me reconvicted that God wanted me to see those things for a reason, and that I truly believe that if you hear the most successful people in the world like talk, it's like they all believe in something. Like they all have faith. Like faith is just believing in something that you can't see. And you can have faith in like the fact that you're gonna have a great summer or have a great day.
Yep.
But I just feel as though when you have faith in God, it just kind of makes everything else like so much easier, and it just takes so much weight off of you because like his yoke is easy, and like you can just give your troubles all to him. And I think that was like a moment for me that totally changed my life, and I just started believing again. I started praying again, and I ended up having a pretty good first summer. So that was my hardest like worst story, but also probably the most life-changing moment on the book field. But the day where I sold the most though.
Yeah, so, let's get into that.
So this was 2 summers ago, and I actually ended up selling 500 units that day. Like you had the magic number, and what was crazy was that like so the magic number, guys, is whoever sells the most that day.
It's the most prized possession in Southwestern.
And this guy had the magic number a lot.
One behind the success coin.
Yeah.
First summer
is the
magic number is number 2. You get, what is it? Hotel stay.
Yep.
At check-in.
Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of the big, and it's like, and then you get to be on the pace or the what's that report? The ROW report. Every week, your name's on there. Martin Chow, magic number.
Yeah.
It's a pride point.
Yeah, for sure. And this guy Roy had it a lot. So this guy Roy had it the most recent. I wasn't even thinking about it. I kind of had a hard week. Like day 1, I sell like 100, 90 units or whatever. But then day 2, I sell like 20 units. And then on Wednesday, I sell like, I think it was like 5 units. And then Thursday, I zeroed out. Yeah. And then, no. I didn't zero out Thursday. I actually sold like 100 units.
There's no
Thursday.
such thing as a 0 day.
Yep.
There's no such thing as
Yeah, right. So I ended up selling 100 units on Thursday. And then on Friday, I zero. I just don't sell anything at all. And so I'm sitting on like 350 units for the week at this point. And then I'm like, whatever, I'm just going to give it my best, Tomorrow I go out and I have the whole day just planned out. Like I have 2 morning appointments, one where it's actually on the way to my morning appointment. And I calculated in my head of like, all right, this is how much I got to show them, you know, in order for me to still make this a good week. And I didn't know if they were going to buy or not. And I was like, whatever happens, you know, it's fine. And first customer, they buy like a $500 set. Then the next sit down, they buy like a $2,000 package. And then from there, we were just rolling.
Bang, bang.
Yeah,
How many
just like,
customers did you have?
I think that day I had, it was like 9 customers, 4 lead, and like they were all just big ass packages. It was like 500 units. And
That's how you got to do it now. You got to add in lead.
you got to, yeah, adds another 30 to it, you know? So it was just like, why wouldn't you?
And it's monthly too.
But to give the audience like how much is it a unit now? It's like $8 or something.
You know more than I do this summer. What is it?
500 times 8 is like
$4,000.
Yeah, making like $4,000 in a day or whatever. But yeah, that was that was a pretty fun day.
Yeah, 9 customers in any day is pretty fun regardless, because you'll have a couple big ones in there.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
And it's a lot of fun. You get 9 customers. Some people have a hard time having 9 sit downs, so getting 9 custos. You know, would you have like 10 sit downs, or were you?
Yeah, I think it was like 10 sit downs. I think it was 10.
It's hard to get 20
Or no,
sits
maybe
on
it was
9
like
custos.
100% closing percentage. I think it was 9
insane.
for 9.
Was it like a small little town where everybody knew everybody, or was it?
Yeah. But it was funny just because that whole week it wasn't clicking, and then when you just like have faith that it's gonna work out, and you're like, it's gonna be fine, I'm gonna be fine, and you just gotta have that loose grip I was talking about earlier, like it just works out, and it always balances out. I had so many weeks that summer where it was like
Not looking good.
It wasn't looking good. I was like 400, and then I crossed over to Chairman's or PC like you know on Saturday, and so it's just like it always works out.
Yeah.
And even when it doesn't, it still works out. You still got a roof over your head. You still got a car.
Exactly.
Still got clothes to wear. Still got a family that loves you. So even when it doesn't, it still does.
It's all just a game. It's all just one big game.
And it's just a mind game. And I think that's like something that a lot of people just got to embody, you know, in sales and recruiting. It's just if you know how to play the game of, you know, balancing gratitude and pressure on and pressure off. You know, it's just like a seesaw.
Well, man, this has been fun.
Yeah,
It's
man.
been a lot of fun.
Appreciate you having me. This has been awesome.
To end every segment, we do, unsolicited advice to the audience here. You know, what advice would you give a new sales guy that's doesn't know if sales is for him or if it's going to work out? Maybe they just committed to doing something like selling books for a summer, or, you know, kind of thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then what advice would you give to somebody that wants to hit the next level in sales?
Yeah. I mean, I would just say, like, it's all the fundamentals. Like, there's nothing above the fundamentals of, you know, the hours and the dials or the demos or whatever you call them and what you do and, you know, your attitude. So if you're just like truly just focused on the fundamentals, sales is a numbers game. Just put in more numbers than everybody else, and over time you will become better than everybody else. You know, or not just better than everybody else. That doesn't matter, but you will become, you know, the person that you want to become, and even more than that.
Badass.
So,
cool. Well, you guys have just witnessed the 4th episode. Hopefully we got the audio on this one. That was a banger.
Oh, we do.
We got the audio. So hopefully the cameras are turned on. Of the 20-something Sales Podcast with your host, Roy Clancy and Martine Pow. We'll see you next time. Peace.